What's up, guys? This is the Shining Forest channel. My name is Jordan Dominique, and I am wearing a bucket hat inside. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm actually here to talk about another Jordan, a Jordan who's been quite popular in the media for the past couple of years. Jordan Peterson, actually. And I wanted to talk, and maybe I'm a little late to this conversation, but he's just somebody who I've recently come upon. So that's the reason why I've personally devoted some attention and energy towards his everything that he's been discussing in the media. So I actually happened upon him randomly by chance on YouTube, just looking through some self-help videos, things like that, like um videos on how to become more effective, more importantly, specifically those kind of things. Those are things that I just enjoy looking at, that kind of media in my spare time on YouTube. And I think that it's personally helped me a lot in focusing on things that I want to achieve for myself. And I believe that in today's generation, sorry about the squeaky chair, that it's very necessary for those kind of avenues, because we have so many people with a lack of I guess what you would say a mentor figure or guidance, being that a large portion of my generation come from single parent households, things like that. And just the more avenues that we have to educate ourselves on becoming effective and doing, becoming useful adults is important. And Jordan Peterson, I believe, has contributed largely to a revitalization of focusing on those kind of things in a certain demographic of people. But he's also, through the means and the conversations and his lectures that he's had, he's done it on a plane that could be viewed as controversial because of the certain talking points that he chooses to address as problematic in society. But let me go ahead and reverse this back just to give a little background on who Jordan Peterson is. And this is without, he's a psychologist who does lectures at colleges across the globe, honestly. He's Canadian, I believe. He's a Canadian citizen currently, but he does lectures all over the globe where he talks about, how can I describe what he talks about? Well, he talks about, really how to become more effective people, how to become a more effective society. And he talks about well, he really addresses trying to reawaken. I'm trying not to put words in his mouth, but I would say that he really addresses a lot of the fact that societally in modern Western civilization, a lot of men and women have strayed from their roles as human. And I don't mean gender roles necessarily, but I mean our societal roles that we fill, in building communities, like the fundamentals of civilization. He kind of, from what I gather, and this is my perspective on what he teaches, he kind of preaches how we've kind of strayed away from our duties as human beings in maintaining the balance between order and chaos as individuals in our communities, which is leading to negative results. A lot of people, I'm just saying negative results because a lot of people, who are his opponents would say that say that he's, calling for some kind of an apocalypse or something like that. But I would really say that, by all means, besides the world exploding, we are in an apocalypse of a sense where things are trending towards, mental health issues on the rise, suicide rates on the rise, things like this, depression, all these things on the rise. And there's many different factors that contribute to that. Obviously, financial issues, turmoil, debt, the mentality that people have about finances and luxury items, all of these things, like people wanting things without having to work for it. Like that's what I mean. There's so many different elements to what he talks about. But he's built a lot of traction with the rugged way that he approaches it, because he speaks often upon a lack of masculinity and an overabundance of femininity being pushed onto today's society. And a lot of people like to, from what I've been observing, see what he says and say that he's specifically against women, or that he supports the oppression of women. And I think that is really not fair to write what he's saying off as that, first off, because from every bit of, and now because at first I like, in the first couple of days that I saw a video of his, I was kind of blown away by how much him and me actually agreed on as far as the mentality of society, and just from what I saw in that one time. So I immediately went to my Facebook and I asked people, and I was like, what do you guys know about this guy? How do you feel about him? And then immediately I was actually met with a lot of people who was just like, oh, screw that guy. He's like a bunch of bad words, like he's not a cool person. He's, rude. But they didn't say why. So I asked, I was like, well, why did you guys say that? And then they were like, some of them kind of vaguely was like, yeah, he just says a lot of disagreeable things and stuff like that. But one person in particular, whose opinion I respect, I would say, was saying that, he's a pseudo intellectual, and that he speaks in a lot of fields that he doesn't have any expertise in. It's like, sure, he's a psychologist and that's what he's trained in, but he speaks about economics and things, and a lot of things that are basically, I'm not going to say above his pay grade, but not in his wheelhouse, should I say, of knowledge. And when I saw that, hold on 1 second. When, I'm the type of person where I'll listen to that, but I still want to kind of like see for myself what it is that necessarily caused the drama and everything like that. So I've been, watching him ever since then, and it's been about a month or so, and I haven't been like only absorbing like his media or anything, but I'll say I've consumed about a good solid 2 hours of his lectures per week for about a month now, if you average my consumption of his media out. And from what I've seen of actually listening to him, I haven't gathered the same, I just haven't gotten that same vibe, for lack of a better term, from him that people are talking about. And this speaks to a bigger issue in our society that's kind of scaring me a little bit, with this groupthink mentality blending with cancel culture. That is a very Orwellian force. When we can sit here and people can take you and they can say, well, I don't like what I gathered from what you said, not without fully understanding it. And then they can tell everybody else that you're not worth listening to because you are a bigot by their definition, by what they've determined. And those other people would not actually even witness for themselves, without allowing you to do something like kill somebody or something like, but just to hear your words, wouldn't go and even see for themselves whether what the other person was saying, just to verify. Not, I'm saying to question them or anything, but just to see. It's like if somebody came to me and said, oh, somebody did this, I'd be like, oh, okay, what did they do? And then, they would have to show it and present the evidence or whatever. But without even requiring that, we're just going to say, okay, well then screw him. I don't want to listen to him. Based off of almost like a telephone game where somebody is telling you their interpretation of what somebody else said, which is what I did at the beginning of this video of my understanding of what he's saying. But notice how the whole time I gave you those disclaimers saying that this is what I think about what he's saying, not what he's saying. You would have to go watch what he was saying to understand what he's saying. But getting back to the point of, so people play this telephone game where they're giving their interpretation of what somebody said, and based off of that, somebody else would just completely shut that person out and not even listen to what he actually said so that they could absorb it. Because if they did, they probably would realize that the other person was building an agenda or had an agenda against him and was trying to gain opposition to his cause. And that's what I've been seeing displayed in the media, actually. Because, once again, I see him do lectures by himself, and I'm like, wow, this is so crazy. This is amazing. The things that he's saying is, revolutionary. And I'm not going to get too into that, because if I sit there and talk about each point, I'll probably break down further points of what he talks about and say how I agree with it. But I'm just saying that I agree with most of what I've seen him say directly out of his mouth about his beliefs and stuff like that. Haven't read his book yet, the 12 Principles yet, but I'm going to definitely get that. I'm definitely going to get that and read it. But anyways, going back to what he's saying, I agree with a lot of it. But when I see him talking in interviews or, when people are criticizing him and he has the chance to respond, basically every time that I've seen the conversations that they've had with him, instead of asking him to maybe reiterate his beliefs or to have even a genuine conversation with him, instead of just a full-on interrogation, more times than not, they lead on with, introductory, blah, 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 general pleasantries, which is cool. And then they immediately go into, so when you said this, and then this was like this, you were saying this, and then he immediately has to go into and explain what he actually was saying, or what he actually said, or what he actually believes, instead of them kind of asking him how he feels about a specific subject. And then when he answers them, they'll be like, oh, so you're saying blah, 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 such and such and such and such. And then he responds with, no, what I was saying right then was, no, it's like this, like that, like this, like that, like this. And has to respond to what they were saying as they continue. And I'll keep on with the example. And then they'll say, okay, so he'll say something that says that this is what has led to the oppression that we see today. And they'll be like, oh, so you're saying that's a good thing? You're like, no, I'm just saying that's what's led up to it. And my whole point in saying, giving those very vague examples, obviously, is that they keep building straw men that he has to then tear down, instead of asking him actually to iterate what he believes, and then just letting that, be what it is. And then you could then start to question him based off of that, but starting with putting words in somebody's mouth and then, you know what I'm saying, going on is just strange. And that's really, I've never, like, that's, I've never been a part of a debate team or anything like that. But even in a debate, if it was going to be such a thing, I don't believe that that's a very good strategy. Because when are you even building up your cause by just putting words in somebody else's mouth? But a lot of these aren't debates, they were interviews. And in an interview, I think that totally throws away journalistic integrity, because it makes it look like you have an agenda, and it makes you look like you have an agenda against your guests that you're bringing on the show. And it's fine if you do, but there's a professional way to present that, especially if you want to actually invalidate the things that they're saying. But the thing is, when a man keeps having to tear down the strong men that you keep building up in front of him, he never actually gets to, express what he actually believes. And then it just makes him look disagreeable and argumentative the whole time. But really, you've been feeding words into his mouth. But besides all of that, and this is something that I've observed from 3 different media, like I've seen like either 3 or 4 different interviews where it's gone like that. And I believe 1 actual debate. And time again, when Jordan actually gets to express what he really believes, he makes them look very, very ill-informed of what he is actually out here talking about. And I believe that if he had actually, if these people actually studied what he was saying firsthand, a book is one thing, but I also believe you should absorb a person and see them, watch them do that, which is why I watch these interviews and I watch his, body language and everything, and I listen to his answers. And one thing you could sit here and say that when he's giving his rebuttals that are very polished and everything like that, these are practiced. But I just want to say, when you're going in opposition, it's not like people are working with you to help you to overcome what their objections that they're saying. So it's like, put yourself in his position and imagine how hard it would be to be a complete bigot at your heart and coming up with these extremely well thought out responses of what you are claiming that you actually believe, if you didn't actually believe that in your heart. It would be so hard to do that on the fly with the conviction that he does when he gives his answer. Like, to say that he's disingenuous when he's answering and saying, no, that's not what I believe, this is what I actually believe. To believe that he is doing that systematically or what's it called? Maniacally? Is that a word? I feel like that is a word. To say like he's doing it with some type of an evil intent, like he's some mastermind who is concealing his intentions, that would take such an amazing level of restraint. And to do that as as you're living now, to fake who you are as a being and stuff like that, having a wife and a family and stuff, being a clinical psychologist, don't you think that would eat a person up? Like, being that disingenuous, especially when his main thing that he's preaching is telling the truth and live a moral life. That's crazy to believe that a person could do that with no evidence. So once again, I say that the people who could claim that kind of stuff, it's just like, all right, well, you have to make that make sense to me. But from everything that I've observed, from what he actually says out of his mouth, it's for the benefit of man and woman societally. And it's also a reiterating of things that were at one time were obvious, but are now being ignored because of the identity politic driven society that we live in. And that is so problematic. More and more people in my generation are going to be coming into this realization as we go on through life. You're going to see it. I promise you're going to see it. This rebellious culture that we have, where we just are fighting for these rights that we, claim are just stolen from us, but it's like are so unnecessary to the benefit of humankind. It's like it's just such an utter waste of time. And I'm so happy that there are people out there like Jordan Peterson who are trying to refocus us on what is actually fundamental for human mastery. And the cool thing about a lot of these people is that they don't take the joy out of life, like many of the people on the other side are trying to paint them as. And I think it's kind of ironic that when you talk about a person like Jordan Peterson, who they are painting as this, advocate for this extreme authoritarian way of living, like, you know what I'm saying? It's funny how he's so passionate about living your truth to man and woman and all of the in between too. For me, I think it's ironic that the people on the other side are the ones who are telling them that no, if you're free-minded, you can only express it in this way. Like, that is so freaking oxymoronic to what they're talking about. It blows my mind that you can come with that kind of an argument. And they do. They really do. They probably don't even realize that they're doing that because they're doing it under the guise of their own expression. But when you're trying to impose your own beliefs on everyone around you, that's literally authoritarianism. So, surprise. That's the cake. But there's one big thing I want to talk about because if you notice, I have darker skin than a Caucasian person, and that's because I'm not a Caucasian person fully. I am mixed, but let's not get into that because if you look at me on the street, you would say that I was at least ethnic, but probably black because I am. And the big issue around Jordan Peterson, or one of them, was that a lot of people believe that he is, once again, an advocate for the alt-right, or that he is, and they have this picture of him with some dude with Pepe the Frog, and he's doing this, and they're saying, and he's smiling with them, and they're saying that means that he is a supporter of that kind of stuff. And then he's had Twitter, you know what I'm saying, conversations where he has sarcastically, to people who have kind of criticized him in that way, responded just like in his own way. One, I will say that he's admitted that he's regretted the certain, not responses that what he said, but the nature of people's demeanor when they have conversations on Twitter, the battle mentality of it. He's regretted engaging in that, is what I will say. But to go back to what they're saying, one, I have to say, we have to stop assigning people to one side or the other. It happens too much in society. It's disgusting to me. I go online and I talk about something that I don't agree about with the Democratic Party, and I'm automatically assigned to a right wing, or, you know what I'm saying, a Republican or a Trump supporter or something like that. Like, there is no there's so many people who want to live in the middle or just cherry pick from what we believe in, because that's how our actual beliefs work. But there are so many people who want to polarize you instantly from one thing that you may agree on, one point that you may have with one side or the other. Then they're going to throw you on the other side, or one criticism you may have of the other side. They say, oh, so you're just that side. No, that's not how this works, you know? That's not how humans work. So when we force that mentality on people, it's destructive to individual. Once again, it's authoritarian. That is authoritarian. And so assigning him to the alt-right because of not even what he believes or what you've heard him say, but what you've heard other people say that he said, is crazy. That's the definition of insanity that will cause, for so many people who want freedom, that is causing the authority, that's building walls around you. That is building these oppressive structures around human beings that are completely unnecessary. And you're probably doing it without realizing, you can't help that you feel that way. Like, when you see somebody like that, your brain fires off these signals as to, that's an enemy. I have to put them in there, and then I have to reassign how I believe, think, feel about them. Like, this whole block culture, I'll cancel you, like deleting people because of their beliefs and stuff like that. It's all the same thing that's happening to this man. And that is why I'm so passionate about it personally. It's not even about what he believes, but it's that they keep trying to do this to people. This is what modern, like, this is the stuff that George Orwell was talking about in his books, man. Like, he was saying that they're gonna do this kind of stuff to people for just thinking differently and trying to tell people to think for themselves and do for themselves. And that's what I'm afraid of. Like, he tells people to live a meaningful life, watch your diet, take ownership of yourself, stop spending money on unnecessary things, and that anti-consumerism mentality, like that, and that taking, reclaiming your purpose of your life, is why I believe that they are trying to get rid of him. And that is the that's the point to all of this stuff, is that so many people who want their individuality, like the trans community and ethnic people and everybody who wants to gain in this world and stop being oppressed, has to take on this mentality and understand that the people who are oppressing you will paint people who are giving you good information as the bad guys. You can't be so foolish as to just listen to that. You have to take in information for yourself and decipher what you actually believe. Don't be so afraid that you're going to be brainwashed by listening to somebody. Like, just go listen to them. Because they're going to be like, yeah, you listen to this guy, and then all of a sudden you're going to be listening to that guy. And then you're going to be like, well, that guy wasn't so bad. And then you're going to be like, well, Mussolini wasn't so bad. And it's like, dude, it is not always going to be that extreme. Like, we're still rational human beings, right? So we can read stuff that we don't agree with, and it's not going to automatically be like, now I believe in it. We have to absorb things from both sides. Otherwise, you're entering an echo chamber, and it'll feel good for a moment, but that is totally going to stint human growth and development, because that's tribalism. That is division. When you only allow yourself to be around people who think and look and feel exactly like you do, and anybody else has to be somewhere else, that's tribalism, and that's gonna mess us up as people. I've spent way too long on this video. I'm just here to say that I definitely support, from everything that I've seen from Jordan Peterson, what he says. I can't say that I know him personally, and if he came out and, you found some like neo-Nazi like stuff that he was, you know what I'm saying, like something, if something came out where it totally confirmed everything that everybody else said about him being a Nazi or anything, racist, whatever, homophobe, anything, I would, of course, not appreciate that. But at the same time, it wouldn't invalidate any of the things that I've seen him say out of his mouth. So that is where I think that we should look at things as people. And of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to listen to everybody. Like, people like Gigi Allen, I don't really listen to their music or something, because it's like, no matter how good it may be, I just don't really care for it. And that's my own preference. So I get that. But we can't get so closed-minded that we allow other people to tell us, oh, this person's a bigot, don't even listen to them, and then we just go off of that. Like, that's really not okay. So yeah, I'm gonna end the video like that. If you have anything to say about that, you can definitely comment, your thoughts, encourage. If you think I'm an idiot for falling into whatever, I'm brainwashed or something like that, hey man, that's totally your right to feel that way. But yeah, I would just be happy to hear you respond, and thank you for watching the video, and definitely like it also, and subscribe if you want to. That's cool. Have a good one.